Hi, guys. I'm Pandora Saunders, and I'm a leadership coach, and I specialize in identifying the leadership bottlenecks in your firm so that we can develop a clear, structured leadership funnel. What is a leadership funnel? Well, leadership funnel is a clear, structured pathway that intentionally develops people from leading themselves to working in a team, to leading other leaders, and then finally to being able to lead a firm themselves. So a quick stat, most business owners spend about 70-80% of their time in the weeds doing the work that really should be delegated. So delegation isn't really the problem, though. The problem is the lack of a leadership funnel, which naturally leads to the delegation. So I'm going to talk about the 5 biggest barriers to delegation by owners to their employees. And we're going to start with, it's faster if I do it myself. So owners are experts in what they do. That's why you're doing it. That's why you started a company, because you really know it and you feel like you're ready to branch out on your own and do it. The real issue is that there is no system to develop the people under you to where you feel like you can delegate to them. So what the leadership funnel does is it gives level-based development so that you can escalate your delegation as their capacity grows. So basically, you can give them more as they get better. Owners stop delegating blindly and hoping for the best, and they're actually delegating because they know that the person is ready for that delegation. The second issue that firm owners have is the fear of mistakes or inconsistency. So the owners have worked very hard to bring in the clients, and they feel that the clients aren't going to be getting the same quality of work if they delegate it, or that if something goes wrong, it's going to come back on them. And this is a position of fear, which is not a great place to be in. And it's what keeps you from delegating at this level. As you develop a good leadership funnel, what happens is you're working closely with the people that you're developing, and you see them improving their skills little by little. You know where they're at, and you are so much more comfortable delegating items to them. And now it doesn't mean that mistakes aren't going to happen. Mistakes will happen, but you'll also learn how to deal with those. And they should be lower level mistakes, meaning that they're not an emergency that you're going to have to run out and fix. And they're going to be comfortable coming to you with those mistakes as they happen. And so you can work on whatever the problem is. Okay, number 3, my team isn't ready. That's often true, but that's not because they're just not ready. It's because you have no leadership funnel that's truly developing them and getting them ready. So many firms will hire for the technical skills. They don't necessarily ever develop leadership capacity, which allows them to make decisions and take ownership. And then they get really frustrated when they don't make decisions and they don't take ownership. So this funnel creates a roadmap to train them for the different levels of leadership readiness. And employees will grow step by step with you, and you're not going to be guessing at where they are and what their strengths and weaknesses are. So you're going to know when your team is actually ready for that delegation. Lack of trust is number 4. This one is very difficult, and it's kind of what all of them come down to, is that you don't trust the people underneath you. Now, owners will doubt the decision-making capabilities of those that are under them and their follow through and really getting it done. And a lot of times it's because they've actually been burned in the past where they've tried to trust them and it's gone poorly. So lack of clarity, not lack of desire, is usually the problem that the employees underneath you are facing, where they don't know where they can take the ownership, where to make the decisions. And when you're not clear on a process or how something works, you're actually a lot more likely to drop the ball on it. What the funnel does is it gives you weekly habits. You're going to have weekly coaching sessions. You're going to have daily kind of logs on how you're working on each of the leadership competencies so that you can move along and review with your coach. And when you're working closely with someone who's doing these regular check-ins and they're looking at themselves with each of these competencies and working on them, you're going to realize when you can trust somebody, or at least make that trust a lot easier to go ahead and try. So John Maxwell, he has a lot of people come to him and ask, but how do I trust the people underneath me? And he says, you trust them by trusting them. And I agree with that to a point, but I think that there has to be a leadership funnel like this that's developing that trust so that you can take that leap and say, okay, I'm going to trust them with this little task. Let's see how well that goes. And then when you can hopefully have a good interaction there that you can build on and start giving them more and more tasks. So that's number 4. Number 5 is identity and control issues. Many firm owners have developed their identity or their self-identity based on what they're doing at their job. I built this. What if someone else messes up and it reflects on my identity? And what am I going to do if I'm not doing this in the firm? Well, delegation threatens that identity. It takes things away from their identity and puts it on something else. So owners, by walking through this process, they actually shift from the mindset of being a doer, where you're in the weeds, to a developer, where you're developing the systems that are happening in the firm, to a visionary, where you're planning out in the future and you're delegating the doer and developer parts. So this actually changes what you're doing in the firm. And before you do this, you need to ask yourself what you want out of developing this firm. Some people, they actually, like if you take my background, I'm an accountant, I may really like doing the financial statements and the tax returns, and I may get a lot of satisfaction out of that. And really, I started the firm so that I could do that without being micromanaged or something, right? If that's what you want, really, that's what we call you've created yourself a job, really more than a company that you're trying to scale. And if that's what you like, there's nothing wrong with that. By all means, you can keep doing that. But you have to do it with the understanding that your business is not going to scale beyond what you can handle because you're the bottleneck. Now, if you are more interested in developing a firm that gets bigger and bigger and you can sell it and, for your retirement or whatever you want to do with it, then you've got to move to this visionary concept. And that's what this leadership funnel does, is it helps you develop into the visionary rather than the doer. Okay, so 90% of small firms grow faster when their leaders develop. Most team members will actually stay stuck at about level 1 or 2, managing yourself, working in a team. And owners become the bottleneck that stops your firm growth. It's very important to realize those 3 things about why a firm needs a good leadership funnel. So this leads to interruptions in your job. So you have constant interruptions where people are coming in and asking you for permission to do things or how to do things. The owner gets a decision overload. He may start dropping the ball at certain times. There's slow project turnaround, and the employees will wait instead of lead in their positions. And ultimately, it's going to lead to the owner burnout. It's just not good. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to develop a leadership funnel that the leaders can grow right next to you so you can see how they're growing. And this isn't time-consuming courses where you're going to go and go to a class once a week for an hour or 2. This is, you're going to be taking a concept, figuring out how you can implement it into your job. First you're going to research that topic, really learn about it, figure out how to implement it into your job, work with whoever's your coaches in the organization, which is normally going to be your direct supervisor, but you're going to get feedback from them, you're going to discuss it, and together you're going to review when you're ready to move on to the next competency. It doesn't mean that you know that perfectly. Everybody is growing their leadership skills throughout life. You can always come back and redo it again. This isn't a one-time thing, but what you want to see is that they've made significant progress in that competency to where you're now more comfortable that they can handle that competency. Okay, so it does that, and then it also provides the structure where you're checking in, you're working together, you have monthly reviews, and you can start delegating to them. And what's going to happen is your firm is going to naturally start scaling. That's, of course, assuming that this is what's holding your firm back, which usually it is. Usually owners know the processes that happen in their business. So, I mean, if there's something else like, your advertising needs to be revamped or your systems really are poor and we need to look at those are other areas that we can look at. But this is going to take away that leadership bottleneck part that bothers so many owners because they ask themselves, why aren't my employees doing this? Like, why does everything have to come through me? That'll help immensely with this. And then you can focus on the other issues that you may have. Okay, so if you want to learn more about this, we do have a leadership bottleneck quiz that you can find on our website at claritybusinesssolutions.com. You can also schedule a free discovery call with me where we can discuss what your problems are, identify them, and see if there's a way that we can help you. Or we have the Breaking the Bottleneck series, which right now I'm providing as a free resource where you can download the PDFs. And so the link will be in the description below. And I would love to get your feedback on that, where you find it helpful, where you don't, where it's unclear, whatever, so that we can improve it. If you would prefer a paperback bound copy that's just nicer, you don't have to print off anything, then you can find them on Amazon as well and order a copy through there. Otherwise, go ahead, comment, subscribe. All that really helps. Thanks.